guys, what's up? It's Vampire Bride. Today I'm talking again about my Mini Ninja build. I wanted to see how it stands up to my daily routine and check out some of the specs with the AMD 7570. Alright, so I haven't worked much with AMD on the channel, so I thought I would change that up a little bit with the Mini Ninja build and the AMD 7570 graphics card. Also in the Mini Ninja, or the Dell Inspiron 660S, is an i3 3240 processor and 8GB of RAM. The 7570 graphics card is an entry-level card and was recommended to run at 720p but can handle 1080p. It came out in 2012 with the rest of AMD's 7000 series and GeForce's 600 series. So I wanted to take the Mini Ninja through what would be considered a standard day for me and see how it performed. In a standard day, I would use my computer for watching Netflix, YouTube, scrolling through Facebook, recording, editing, and of course gaming. So I wanted to see how the Mini Ninja and the AMD 7570 performed when doing all of these tasks. Of course, it can do things like Netflix and YouTube, and scrolling through Facebook and any other thing on Google browser is just fine. Of course, it is a lot slower than my usual PC, as it has a lot less processing power, and my PC has an SSD while the Mini Ninja or Dell Inspiron 660S only has a hard drive. So all these tasks function just fine. You just have to have a little more patience waiting for the computer to carry out the task. The next thing I wanted to test it with was editing. I did some minor editing and composite shots using the Mini Ninja, and of course again it did just fine. I use HitFilm Express as it is a free software. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money to use this computer for one day with this, as it is obviously not what I'm going to usually be using this computer for when I have a much higher processing, quicker build right here. It handled anything I threw at it with editing just fine, but again it was a bit slower, especially with rendering out a project. Alright, so last but probably most importantly, we have gaming. Now, this computer with this card in it is not going to properly run games coming out today that are very demanding with their high resolutions and expectations of high frames per second. But after finding it at Goodwill for just $5, I wanted to see just what it can do. So I tested the computer with the AMD 7570 graphics card against a few games, either running benchmarks or playing the game for a while watching the frames per second counter in the top of the screen to see just how well, or not so well, this card would run. The first test I did was using Tomb Raider 2013's in-game benchmarks with presets of normal or medium. I got a minimum frame per second count of 24, an average of 31, and a maximum of 38. So it is somewhat playable, and not too bad for what can be considered a fairly demanding game. I used Tomb Raider 2013 as one of the tests because it came out in, of course, 2013, and the card came out in 2012, so it was fairly close in time frame. Next, I tested using Call of Duty Black Ops, where I played the game for 30 minutes or so and watched the frames per second counter on the computer. I got a minimum of 18, an average of 28, and a maximum of 36 frames per second during this time. So again, it can be considered playable by some, but barely. And last, I tested it against a slightly older game, Resident Evil 5, which came out in 2009, and it did great. It stayed right around 60 frames per second, barely ever dropping at all the entire time. Nicely playable even for this low-performing graphics card. Now, of course, games like GTA 5 are not even going to be playable on this setup, but I for one don't think it did too bad. After getting this graphics card for $5, I really can't complain. I was actually nicely surprised. That being said, you usually would not find this graphics card for quite that cheap. Usually you could find it for about $40 or so.
Now, if you have a low price range but can spend a bit more than that, say $60 to $80, I would go ahead and recommend the GeForce GT 1030 as it will perform marginally better and give you better results. But for this little system, it worked just fine. I was in no way looking to build some kind of powerhouse. I have my PC behind me that is working just fine. Which brings up the question of why I did this. Why would I want to build something like this? Besides, of course, to mess around with figuring out some specs. I built this machine to be an emulator machine. It runs emulations very well. I'll talk a little bit more about that next week or here in the coming weeks. Join me again in the next few weeks while I test out some emulations on this machine and show you just what I've been doing with it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button and of course subscribe for more videos to come.